Media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
What is going on, y'all? Welcome to the Mission Ready Men briefing right here on the SHR Media Network, where masculinity has not been recalled and faith has not been neutered. Today is Tuesday, February 17th in the year of our Lord 2026. And no, this is not just politics. It's spiritual warfare and suicidal empathy that is dressed up as progress. So we're done pretending. We're done pulling punches, and we are never going to apologize. So grab your therapy dog cupcake, because this one is gonna hurt. So I had my show all prepared and thought everything was good. I thought I was ahead of schedule, and then all hell broke loose. We had people claiming that ICE killed a woman down in Georgia, and we had another gender diluted shooter up in Rhode Island. So I want to talk about those things just real quick. I'm not going to get into too many of the details because I haven't really had much of a chance to dig into it and get all of the facts. But I do want to mention, in the case of the woman who was killed, that they claim was killed by ICE, obviously, when ICE went to go detain this illegal alien, he ran, and this person, what is his name? This person, I don't have his name right in front of me at the moment. He had a valid detention order or deportation order from 2024. And he ran, which is a felony, and he hit this woman and killed her. This woman was a teacher. By all accounts, she was on her way to school, on her way to her job when she was struck down by this guy. And the headlines are all, the headlines from the left anyway, are all saying that this woman was killed by ICE, not the actual perpetrator, not the illegal alien, but ICE, because they hate ICE. They hate law enforcement, and they hate, or they love the criminals. They love the illegal aliens. And so, of course, these people are getting dragged online for saying this, and it's just so obvious. It's so obvious that ICE was doing their job. This person committed another crime when he ran and tragically killed this woman. So as more details come out, we'll get into that, and we'll also dig into further the shooter who killed his ex-wife and child and others at a hockey rink in Pawtucket, Rhode Island. how many times are we going to see this happen and continue to blame the gun, continue to blame everything but the shooter, and continue to just overlook the fact that we are seeing so many of these killers who are gender diluted. I don't like to use the word trans because that's not what they are. So we'll get into that. We'll talk about that another time when I have more of a chance to really dig in. I've read a few things, but haven't had a chance to verify much. But we had a lot go down. But I really want to go ahead and get into the show that we had planned, and if we have a chance towards the end, maybe we'll get into that. One other quick thing. Robert Duvall passed away. Celebrity deaths don't really, they never really hit me that hard. There have been a few, but for the most part, celebrities are people. They and especially since I've been saved, it really doesn't affect me a whole lot. But Robert Duvall's passing away did strike a chord because he has been in some of my favorite movies of all time, starting with The Godfather, Lonesome Dove, Open Range, Secondhand Lions. I mean, the guy is just, and there was a recent one that the name of which I can't remember, but it was about golf. He's going to be missed. His art, his performances are going to be missed. So rest in peace, Robert. That you had a hell of a career, and you're going to be missed. All right. Some people believe that leadership is about optics, about vibes, about clever lines, trending, viral clips, but it's about preparation. It's about judgment and competence. And right now we're watching what happens when people who aren't ready and who may never be ready, honestly, get handed some serious responsibility. Foreign policy is not a classroom exercise. Budgets aren't ideological wish lists, as much as the left wants to think that they are. And institutions don't survive on reputation and branding alone. You had the NATO question, energy, women's rights. I'm not sure why that had a place at a security conference, but here we are. But there were three separate stages, and two of them exposed. That's not fine. AOC. Oh my goodness. AOC. This chick. Oh my goodness. So she was asked one of the most basic questions that had a built-in response. If you have been paying attention at all. And if she had a competent team around her, briefing her, preparing her for this, I see a message in the chat that's saying there's a loss of video. If you all can see me or hear me, let me know. But I'm gonna keep going. But AOC, she imploded after getting this question. So let's go ahead and take a look at this, because this is sad. This is just sad. Here we go.
Would and should the U.S. actually commit U.S. troops to defend Taiwan if China were to move?
You know, I think that this is such a, you know, I think that this is a
Well, folks, I hope that I hope that we're back. I'm not sure exactly what is going on. That is annoying, and I do apologize. So you know what? We're just gonna continue to march. Keep it going. Let me know. Well, you probably didn't catch any of that, unfortunately. So let's just leave it at the fact that AOC is an idiot and should go back to bartending. I apologize, folks. But yeah, let's keep it moving. Thank you, O2 AMT. I appreciate that. Hopefully we can have a more stable connection now. All right, so let's move on. No need to belabor that point, since I have no idea where what you all saw and what you didn't. But like I said, let's just leave it at AOC should go back to bartending. Another person who had no business being at this security conference, Gretchen Whitmer. She is the governor of Michigan, unfortunately. Her expertise is trampling on people's rights. We all know what she did during COVID. She actually stopped people from buying seeds so that they could grow their own food, if you can believe that. And if you were paying attention, you remember that. Just unbelievable. I mean, the epitome of a tyrant. But she's at this conference, and she's not a diplomat. She doesn't have a federal position. And she proved, just like AOC, that she has absolutely no idea what she's talking about. And this is her response to a question. That's Matt Whitaker. He was, I believe he was a deputy attorney general during Trump's first administration. And he is now the ambassador to NATO, I believe. So he actually belongs on this stage. And Gretchen Whitmer tried to defer to him with this question. And he was like, oh, no, I'm not bailing you out. I want to hear what you have to say, which was the perfect response. But let's listen. then why are you there? This is a foreign policy conference, a security conference. We'll answer that question here in a minute. That quip at the end right there just shows you. And you didn't see that. Anyway, it doesn't matter. That quip at the end shows you that she had no idea what she was doing. And she tried to deflect with humor and tried to show some type of superiority, I guess, by saying, go ahead, you do a better job than that. And of course, Matt Whitaker, I haven't been able to find a clip of him answering that question or anything. But I guarantee you he did a better job. I guarantee it. So why was she there? Why was she there? The only explanation is that she is trying to build her resume and burnish her foreign policy chops for a VP selection. There's no way she'd be able to pull off a nomination for president. But she's probably trying to position herself to be selected as a VP or some other position if a leftist is able to pull off a win in 2028. But foreign policy is not for padding your resume. If you're learning geopolitics on the fly, you should not be on this stage. You just shouldn't. Because her and AOC clearly are not ready. Serious rooms like that deserve serious preparation. Foreign policy is not a networking event. It's a pressure test. And somebody actually showed up prepared for this moment. And of course, I'm talking about big Marco Rubio. He showed up and he let it be known he was prepared. He was there ready. He was there ready to work. And he is making a strong case. He is making a very strong case for president in 2028. Now, he's already deferred, I think, to J.D. Vance, but having him as VP, J.D. Vance and Marco Rubio as the ticket in 2028, that could be huge. Because then, all things being equal, you never know what might happen. 8 years of J.D. Vance, and then 8 more years of Marco Rubio, that could set this country on a path that the left would, I don't want to say never be able to destroy, but it would make it very, very difficult for them to do that. But Marco Rubio, he was, as I said, he was prepared. He had a written speech, yes, but that's preparation. He was direct, he was structured, and he addressed everything that needed to be addressed on the world stage in that environment. And I just want to get to a couple of clips because this was one of the best speeches that I've heard him give. And he's given some really good speeches, but check this out.
End of the Second World War, the West had been expanding. Its missionaries, its pilgrims, its soldiers, its explorers pouring out from its shores to cross oceans, settle new continents, build vast empires extending out across the globe. But in 1945, for the first time since the age of Columbus, it was contracting. Europe was in ruins. Half of it lived behind an iron curtain, and the rest looked like it would soon follow. The great Western empires had entered into terminal decline, accelerated by godless communist revolutions and by anti-colonial uprisings that would transform the world and drape the red hammer and sickle across vast swaths of the map in the years to come. Against that backdrop, then as now, many came to believe that the West's age of dominance had come to an end, and that our future was destined to be a faint and feeble echo of our past. But together, our predecessors recognized that decline was a choice, and it was a choice they refused to make. This is what we did together once before, and this is what President Trump and the United States want to do again now.
And that clip goes on for a little bit, and at the end of that clip, he says that the United States refuses to be a participant in the West managed decline. And I couldn't agree with that any more. This speech, this was, I believe, just over 20 minutes of Marco Rubio being big Marco and brilliant. So, yeah, there was another clip I wanted to show you guys. And this one, he's talking about energy and ingenuity. And this is just another brilliant clip. I'm not sure what's going on there. It was not playing. Here we go. Let's try this again. Wow, the gremlins have just been all over me today. I don't know what's going on.
Together we can reindustrialize our economies and rebuild our capacity to defend our people. But the work of this new alliance should not be focused just on military cooperation and reclaiming the industries of the past. It should also be focused on together advancing our mutual interests in new frontiers, unshackling our ingenuity, our creativity, and the dynamic spirit to build a new Western century. Commercial space travel and cutting-edge artificial intelligence, industrial automation and flex manufacturing, creating a Western supply chain for critical minerals not vulnerable to extortion from other powers, and a unified effort to compete for market share in the economies of the global South.
And when he said extortion from other powers, he's talking about China. We know we should remember when we were having that supply chain issue, we were at China's. They had us. They had us, and they still have us to a certain extent, because we have yet to, like, they manufacture all of our medicine, or 90% of our medicine. We gotta, and that may have changed a little bit in the intervening years, but they still are responsible for a large portion of the medicine that we need, and we got to change that. And that's what he was talking about.
Together, we can not only take back control of our own industries and supply chains, we can prosper in the areas that will define the 21st century.
Whether you agree with what he was saying or not, he understood the assignment. He understood the assignment. He was competent. He had a grasp of the issues. And he had a depth of understanding that he relayed in his speech that the other two that we spoke of couldn't even come close to doing. He had clarity under pressure. His speech was not meandering all over the place. He laid out a plan and a strategy, and he showed that he was a serious player in this game. And that brings us to the next one I want to get to real quick. I don't want to spend a whole lot of time on it, but it doesn't stop at geopolitics. This sort of competence shows up in how we define reality. And Hillary Clinton, for some inexplicable reason, hosted a women's rights forum at a security conference. I have yet to understand how that's relevant, but here we are. So she hosted this women's rights forum, and the headline speaker was a dude. Of course, I'm talking about Timmy McBride, also known as Representative Sarah McBride. I don't want to spend, like I said, I don't want to spend a whole lot of time on it. There's so much to get into. I mean, we could do a whole show. I think we have done a whole show on this before, but let's just listen to this.
Thank you so much for those incredibly kind words. It's an honor to be here with you, Secretary Clinton. It's an honor to be here with another trailblazer, Speaker Emerita Nancy Pelosi. And of course, it's an honor to be here with my fellow panelists. And the mayor of Boston, Michelle Wu, as well. Once politicians start naming other politicians in a room, it never stops. There is no question in the United States that after decades of historic progress on gender equality writ large, and specifically more recently on LGBTQ rights, that we are facing, as you mentioned, a well-organized, well-funded, right-wing regressive movement. And they really have placed trans people at the center of that effort, but we should be clear that the consequences of this anti-trans effort.
He is not fooling anyone. Can we just be honest about that? I mean, he's got long hair, yeah. But look at the size of his hands, his mannerisms. It's very clearly a dude.
Not only out of proximity, but out of intentionality, will include consequences for women of all backgrounds. Because at the end of the day, transphobia, homophobia, misogyny, and sexism are all rooted in the same prejudice: the belief that one perception at birth should dictate who you are, how you act, what you do, who you love, and how you dress.
Okay. How does misogyny and sexism? I'm not sure. I'm not sure how that equates. I mean, I think he was just trying to get that in there, get that soundbite in there.
And it's why threats toward trans people are threats toward all women.
Come on. So-called trans people are the threat towards women. Let's just be honest about that. Well, I want to thank you all for being here in the chat. I appreciate you all being here, whether you agree with me or not. It is awesome to see. So we will, of these categories, then any protection that these people and these categories had is gone. It's just gone. Poof, bye-bye. Somebody said in the chat, quit marginalizing people. It's women who are being marginalized by this movement. The law that we all are supposed to live by depends on clarity and truth. And if there's no clarity and there's no truth, then the law is meaningless. If anyone can just say they're a woman, if anyone can be a woman, then women don't have a category to defend. They don't have rights to defend. It's that plain and simple. But this does, I do bring this up in this context because it is indicative of, it fits into the larger pattern that we're talking about. You have people who have no idea how to conduct foreign policy because they're not equipped. You have people who have no idea what foreign policy success entails. And that's partly due to the fact that these definitions are just collapsing. And when the definitions collapse, everything else collapses. I mean, we've talked about this before, how they have taken over the language. But another part of the pattern is that it's optics over substance, it's style over substance, symbolism over preparation. The world is a dangerous place. China is a threat. Our allies are real. The law is real. And this type of performative optics, viral moment, clever line type of performance, it fails. It fails on every level. And we're seeing it happen in real time. You either have serious leadership, serious competent leadership, or you end up being ruled by the theater kids. So which one do you want? You choose. All right. Yeah, let's go ahead and do this. Somebody else showed up at this unit conference, and I'm not going to do a deep dive into his performance, but he made a fool of himself as well, and he's making a fool of himself over here. And of course, I'm talking about Mussolini himself, Gavin Newsom. And let's listen to this clip before we get into his domestic nonsense.
But I want to remember all those images of masked men, the secret police, something familiar in Germany. Those first images came out of my state, the second largest city in the United States of America. We saw 4,000 National Guard federalized. First time, we'd never seen anything like this. And 700 active duty Marines sent not overseas, but to the second largest city in the United States of America, militarizing the streets of my city. Masked men showing up, unaccountable, no IDs. But I want to remember.
He is, and I think somebody mentioned it in the chat, he is historically illiterate. Eisenhower federalized the National Guard to stop Democrat governors from defying federal law in 1957, Executive Order 10730. It has happened before, and we won't even talk about his secret police quip. He's been getting dragged for that. But I wanted to just play that as an intro to his. I wrote an article on SHR Media. I'm just going to show it real quick. California is broke. Planned Parenthood is not. Gavin Newsom signed a $90 million emergency funding bill for Planned Parenthood, one of the wealthiest nonprofits, so-called healthcare nonprofits in the country, because President Trump significantly cut their funding, and they're closing clinics all over the place, and that's a great thing. I fail to understand how this is an emergency. Like I said, they are, even with the funding cuts from the federal government, they still take in well over $1 billion a year. So where is the emergency? But that just reveals their priorities, his priorities. California is in a massive, massive state deficit of $20 to $35 billion. Rural hospitals are struggling, insurance is struggling, homelessness, there is a homelessness crisis that has been ongoing that he promised to fix 20 years ago that is still just overwhelming the state. I mean, businesses are fleeing in droves. Gas prices in California are going to go way up because so many oil refineries are leaving the state. But yet they found $90 million to give to a company that kills babies. Of course, everyone on the left says that it is healthcare access. I think the unborn children that are killed would disagree because they're not being cared for. But what this really is a bailout a bailout of $1 billion company. Planned Parenthood will tell you that most of the services they provide are not abortion, but the evidence is overwhelming that that is pretty much their bread and butter. I mean, there have been people who have on video called Planned Parenthood clinics and asked for these other services that were not available. All over the place. Kristen Hawkins has done it many times. Others have done it many times. It's not medicine. It's not healthcare. It's messaging. And the message that they're sending is, we don't care about homelessness. We don't care about any of the issues that are pressing the state. We care about making sure that you can kill your children. They have sanctuary policies, climate mandates, gender ridiculousness, and now abortion. The killing of unborn children. Mussolini is another one that relies on vibes, relies on symbols, but has absolutely no substance. This wasn't anywhere close to emergency management. Not even close. This was identity reinforcement. This was ideology reinforcement. We all know he showed up at that security conference to burnish his reputation and position himself as a Democrat nominee in 2028. In a sane world, he would have no chance. His performance as governor would disqualify him for pretty much any office, dog catcher included. But he survived a recall amidst all of this nonsense. So we're clearly not living in a sane world right now. But when the money gets tight like it is in California, the values get exposed. The priorities get exposed. $90 million is not a one-off. It's not accidental. It's a choice. It's a choice. If you want to know who the state worships, follow the money. And make no mistake. I would love to know that how much of that $90 million is going to show up in his bank account. There's got to be a kickback coming from somewhere. There's got to be. Either some of it's going to get funneled to a friend, a business he's a part of. There's money flowing back to him somewhere from that. There's got to be. There has absolutely got to be. All right, y'all. Let's get a word in from our sponsor. And who is our sponsor for today? Where did it go? Well, our sponsor for today's show is Patriot Mobile. And we switched to Patriot Mobile because we were tired of paying ridiculous fees. We were tired of paying ridiculous fees for not great service. Patriot Mobile is the nation's only Christian conservative wireless provider, and every dollar that you spend with them gets used to support causes that you and I agree with: pro-life, pro-family, pro-freedom organizations. So go ahead and switch to patriotmobile.com today. Visit patriotmobile.com/Jackson, and you'll get a free month of service. patriotmobile.com/Jackson. Visit patriotmobile.com today. All right, y'all, I'm Big E, and you are watching or listening to the Mission Ready Men briefing right here on the SHR Media Network, where you can catch our fantastic lineup. You have Sackhead Sean on the Edge of Liberty every Monday and Wednesday at 11 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Pacific. Jersey Joe with the Reaver of Common Sense every Monday and Friday at 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific. And BZ with the Berserk Bobcat Saloon every Tuesday and Thursday at 11 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Pacific. Please be sure to like and subscribe and check out all of the great shows that that these guys put out, and pray that we continue the breakthrough that we had. We hit over 1,000 viewers, 1,000 subscribers. I believe we're at 1,000. I'm not sure exactly, because once it goes over 1,000, you can't just see how many there are. So we're over 1,000. So thank you very much. And the next goal is 2,000. So we are looking forward to reaching as many people as we possibly can. So pray for us that we can do that. All right, now back to the briefing. And we're going to pivot to something that you may not, it's not something I talk about usually, but bear with me because it does fit in. And I'm talking about the NBA All-Star Weekend. That was last weekend. And I don't watch the NBA. I haven't watched the NBA probably since LeBron James was still in Cleveland. Ever how long ago that was. It's been a long time. And apparently, this weekend was the NBA All-Star Weekend. And that used to be something that, whether I was following the season or not, I would at least tune in for the dunk contest, sometimes a three-point shootout. And it was one of those things that even casual NBA fans would make a point to sit down and watch, because all the stars were out. The dunk contest was basically appointment viewing for most of the country. That is not the case anymore. This past weekend, it was at the Intuit Dome. I'm not sure exactly where that is, honestly. But it was empty. The arena was the maybe halfway full. And there's a reason for that. But check this out, because this is interesting. And I promise that there's a point, so bear with me. Check this out. All these lights, these are all empty seats. All empty seats. And this was this was, I believe, during the whatever they call it, the Upcoming Stars show. This was on Saturday. All-Star Game was actually on Sunday, which also wasn't very well attended, from what I understand. But this is indicative of a point that we're making on this show about competence and leadership. NBA All-Star Saturday Night used to be, as I said, must-see TV. It used to be pretty much the main event. People didn't really, I mean, they cared about the All-Star Game, but it was an exhibition that everybody knew was going to be, it was going to be what it was. It was going to be a not so great game. There would be some highlights. The stars would show off or whatever, but the dunk contest and the 3-point contest were where it was at. When Michael Jordan was in his heyday, those arenas were packed. When Kobe Bryant was in his heyday, the arenas were packed. In LeBron's early years, the arenas were packed. You didn't have to wonder if it was going to sell out. The NBA commissioner was a competent, bright guy, and he knew how to get the product out there. Only thing you wondered about was who was going to have the best highlight, who was going to steal the show. Now it feels very corporate. And this is probably why. Check this out.
San Francisco, a lot of you guys were saying like the ticket prices were just too high. So I checked prices for the game tomorrow, and these are insane.
You see that? $6,600. The cheapest ticket, it looks like, is what? $800, $775. Who can afford that? And who wants to save up for that when the product that they're putting out is so trash? And the reason why they're putting out a trash product is because they have no leadership. They have incompetent leadership.
Highest level, $1,000. Cheapest ticket that I saw was $7 here. And there's nothing in the 100s. This is supposedly a good deal. All-Star never used to be like this. It was sold out. Like every event used to be completely sold out and packed, even the celebrity game.
Yeah, it's a mess. It is an absolute mess. And fans are not stupid. Fans know when something matters and when it doesn't. And all of these things that used to be packed were, the arena was barely half full for those events. Is it completely about ticket prices? No. And it's not about scheduling. Some people are saying that it's because of the Olympics. I don't think that has anything to do with it, honestly. But it competes with everything. It competes with our very, very short attention span. And I actually I had a topic I was going to talk about. I'm not going to have time now having to do with that, and we'll get into that next time. But our short attention span, streaming, YouTube Shorts, Instagram Reels. When the highlights of this stuff is everywhere, the live event needs to be irreplaceable. The live event needs to be something that you just do not want to miss. And of course, $7,000 tickets don't help. But as I said, it's not completely about price. But the NBA does not have, David Stern is not walking through that door. They do not have competent leadership anymore. And just like the NFL with their attempts to have a global reach, the NBA is doing the same thing. And it is showing that their priorities are no longer with the product. Their priorities are with that ever expanding revenue stream in the global market. And it's not working. It's not working. All-Star Weekend used to be proof of the NBA's dominance. And now it looks like they're trying to remember why they mattered in the first place. The NBA All-Star Game is supposed to be a celebration of the greatness of these athletes and the greatness of this game. And I used to love basketball. I used to play basketball when I was a kid. I love it. I used to love watching it. But when the celebration of the dominance and greatness can't fill an arena, then you have to ask whether the game itself has changed. And I don't think the game has changed. I think the leadership and the direction that it's going has changed. And the fans aren't buying it. The fans aren't buying it. Because, as I said, and this is the through line, the leadership is incompetent. And the leadership has forgotten what it is supposed to be about. All right, we got about 25 minutes left, and I really wanted to get into this. I wanted to talk about, I had 3 or 4 other topics plus some other stuff to mention. But I really wanted to get to this because this has been something that that has been on my mind and that I've been seeing a lot lately. And people, it's funny. People who listen or watch me know that I am a Christian, I am a conservative. Throughout, in every show, I try to align these things, these topics, these issues with biblical principles. And if that doesn't get weaved into the topics, then I have something that I talk about specifically biblically related. And my wife and I get all the time, you're not real Christians. Mostly from people who don't know us. People who know us and knew us in our previous lives before we came to the Lord haven't really said that. A couple have. But the script is eminently predictable. If you are for traditional marriage, you're a bigot. If you honor mothers and motherhood, you're hateful. If you oppose abortion, you're controlling and you hate women. You're unchristian if you are for strong borders and order. And like I said, I've had people tell me and my wife that we're not real Christians while we're espousing biblical worldviews and quoting scripture and refusing to bend to the whims of the world. And these people who have these criticisms of us, they don't attend church, they don't read scripture, but now all of a sudden they're theologians. The accusation isn't the debate, the accusation is the verdict. And my question is, when somebody says, you're not a real Christian, well, my response is, says who? Who are you to say? If you reject the Bible, if you reject Jesus Christ's divinity, if you reject redemption, if you embrace sin, what basis, on what basis are you rebuking me? Matthew 10:34 says, do not think that I have come to bring peace to the earth. I have not come to bring peace, but a sword. And that passage goes on to talk about how fathers and sons, mothers and daughters are going to be divided against each other because some people are going to follow the path of Jesus Christ and others are not. This notion that Christians are supposed to be just affirm everything and be passive in the face of all this sin is just silly. Jesus was not passive by any stretch of the imagination. He fashioned a whip and went into the temple and started flipping tables and whipping people. That's not passive. That's not weak. That's not affirming. 1 Corinthians 2:14 says, the natural person does not accept the things of the Spirit of God, for they are folly to him, and he is not able to understand them because they are spiritually discerned. People who run around talking about how we're not Christians, they're judging it by a standard that is completely off. They don't share the standard that we share. We're not measured by their version of Jesus. We're not measured by their standard of Christianity. We're measured by the scripture. You can't be corrected by somebody who doesn't recognize your authority, who rejects your authority. It doesn't work that way. And let's be clear about something else. The approval of these people was never on the table. Never. Jesus was perfect. He was the perfect man, and they crucified him. So for any Christian who follows Jesus Christ to think that you're going to be applauded and you're going to be celebrated for that, you're delusional. It's not going to happen. They move the goalposts every time. They want you to be kinder and gentler and more inclusive and affirm all of their sins. But their goal is never for you to be a better Christian. Their goal is for you to reject Christianity and come over to the dark side. Churches tried for for decades, really, to dialogue and affirm and have people have seats at the table and have cultural credibility. They tried for a long time, and that just doesn't work. And the result was Christian men who were ashamed of their conviction. If you chase cultural approval, you are going to lose the culture and you're going to lose your spine. This message is for men out there who are watching or listening. You are the son of a king, not because you earned it, not because you deserve it, but because you are made in the Imago Dei. You are made in his image. He made you one. Galatians 1:10 says, "For I am now seeking the approval of man or of God? Or am I trying to please man? If I were still trying to please man, I would not be a servant of Christ." So the message is for Christians out there who are watching this or listening to this, you are going to be hated. Jesus said, you are going to be hated, but take heart. They hated me. They hated me first. So the approval of people who claim that I'm not a real Christian, it doesn't mean anything to me. It really doesn't, because I'm not trying to win their approval. If I were trying to win their approval, I would not be a Christian. I would not be a servant of the Lord. So we don't answer to comment sections. We don't answer to criticisms in chat. We answer to the Lord Jesus Christ. So as Christians, we shouldn't be trying to perform for them. We should be trying to please him. Now, this is not a call to be cruel. We talked about the whole trans thing earlier in the show, and somebody said I need to stop marginalizing people. It's not about marginalizing people. It's not about trying to be cruel. It's not about being arrogant. It's once again a call to clarity and truth. That's one of the main things that we talk about on this show is truth. What is true? And that's all that I'm looking to do, is to speak the truth and live like what I believe is the truth. I let the culture deal with the culture. The culture is going to have to answer to the same God that I answer to. And I hope that they repent. But we don't, like I said, we don't answer to trending outrage. We answer to the throne. All right, we got about 15 minutes left, and I want to get back into something else, because we talked about Gavin Newsom earlier, and we talked about Gavin Newsom and talked about how he was or is historically illiterate. And Gavin Newsom is getting dragged online for a comment he made. And let's take a look at this. It's going to be tough to read, but I'm going to read it because it is hilarious. In fact, yeah, let's go ahead and play this. Sorry about that.
Let's be very clear, Senator. That is Gavin Newsom comparing American law enforcement to Nazis.
Yep. Which, by the way, is what Obama was doing too. By the way, just like AOC and Whitmer, Newsom is apparently thoroughly historically illiterate. He said we've never seen National Guards federalized in the states. I guess his history book does not discuss the civil rights movement. He's never heard of a president named Dwight D. Eisenhower. He's never heard of sending the National Guard into southern states when Democrats who refused to desegregate schools resisted. Eisenhower sent the National Guard in. The pattern is the same. In this instance, you have Democrats who are saying we refuse to comply with federal immigration law. Then you had, in the 50s and 60s, you had Democrats saying we refuse to comply with civil rights law. In both instances, it is lawless Democrats attacking law enforcement. Gavin Newsom is proudly following the tradition of Bull Connor, another Democrat politician.
So, Gavin Newsom, that was a tweet from Ted Cruz's account. And Gavin Newsom responded and said, Ted Cruz calling a dyslexic person illiterate is a new low even for him. Now, I don't know about you, but I had absolutely no idea that Gavin Newsom was dyslexic. I had no idea. As far as I know, it has never been brought up before. Now I just came across this, so I haven't had a chance to dig into it. So maybe he is, but it's awfully convenient. Just like it was awfully convenient that Biden had a stutter when through 48 years of his political career, no one ever said he had a stutter. And then all of a sudden, when he starts fumbling his words, now all of a sudden it's a stutter. And so many people bought it. So many people who I thought were smart bought that. Just, wow. Anyway, that's a topic for another day. But he said that Ted Cruz calling a dyslexic person illiterate is a new low even for him. He wasn't saying he was illiterate. He was saying that he was historically illiterate, meaning that he had no knowledge of history. And just I don't know if he posted that. I don't know if it was someone in his communications department who posted that, who is like a 21-year-old who doesn't know any better, which is quite likely the case, honestly. But the community note and the comments under that are absolute fire, legendary, just amazing. Somebody said, who's going to read the community note to Gavin? This one is a picture of Gavin Newsom's victim card, lifetime membership. Gavin Newsom is an embarrassment. And I think he's too arrogant, too self-absorbed to even know to even realize. And something that I've said often, I haven't really said it much on the show, but people who don't get it sometimes don't get that they don't get it. And he doesn't get that he doesn't get it. Oh, someone says the governor's comms team that's full of 22-year-old excuse me. That's full of 22-year-old basement dwellers does have limitations beginning with life experience and brains, apparently. This is just, again, he should be completely disqualified from holding any other office. There is absolutely no way in a sane world that he shouldn't even be considering running for president. And in a sane world, he would have advice that would say, look, dude, your state is in ruins. You have no shot. But because people like his 22-year-olds in his comms department don't know any better and have been trained for decades that capitalism is bad, socialism is good, they would vote for him. They would vote for him. And that is C-Wags, Gavin Newsom makes me think of American Psycho. Yes, I have called him Patrick Bateman numerous times because you are 100% correct. That is who he reminds me of. That is absolutely who he reminds me of. It is unbelievable that he is still somewhat relevant in political circles. He should have been run out on a rail in that recall. Larry Elder should be governor of California right now. And without, I don't want to, there were rumors during that recall that it was rigged. I don't know. We'll see. Actually, probably never will see. But anyway. In this episode today, we have looked at different arenas: leadership, governance, institutions. The pattern is the same. Preparation matters, seriousness matters, competence matters. And it's a character issue. Leadership isn't a vibe. Leadership isn't branding. It's not a clever line in a hearing room. It's not a viral moment. It's not a gotcha. It's responsibility. Responsibility demands preparation and readiness. And when a culture chooses style over substance, the damage isn't theoretical. It shows up in policy. It shows up in credibility. And it shows up in the consequences that we reap. The gap in competence that we're watching it's not ideological. Because say what you want about Bill Clinton, he was competent. He was perhaps one of the most talented politicians in the history of this country. I've been saying that for decades. But a talented politician doesn't mean that he was a good politician. It doesn't mean that he did what was best for this country. And some people will say the same thing about Barack Obama. I don't fall in that camp. But he was still more competent than AOC, as much as it pains me to say. But the gap is not ideological. It's functional. And until competence and readiness and preparation returns, we're going to keep paying the price. As I said at the beginning, when competence ebbs, consequences inevitably flow. That's just the reality of the situation. But anyway, gang, that is it for this briefing. We are not just here to fill the void. We are here to equip men, spread the gospel of Jesus Christ, carry the banner of faith, freedom, and hope into the next generation. And if any of what I said matters to you, don't just watch, share it. Share it. Bring another man into the fight. And if you want to wear what you stand for, head over to missionreadymen.com, click Shop 7 Armors, and check out all the designs we have over there about bold faith, true grit, and unapologetic patriotism. And also, over on Mission Ready Men, 7 Armors, you can check out the SHR shop as well. And you can check out all of the logo tees for all of the different hosts on SHR Media. So please go ahead and check that out as well. And check out the 250th celebration tee that we have, 250 reasons to read source documents. It is an awesome tee. Go ahead and check that out. But anyway, folks, remember, when seconds count, the police are only minutes away, but the Lord is right there with you. So keep your prayers going up and your head on a swivel. God bless.